Now let's take a deep dive into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Cal Gadraj. Let's queer up the worldview. Paris unveils a monument honoring LGBTQ victims of Nazi regime. A powerful new memorial honoring gay victims of the Nazi regime and all LGBTQ people persecuted across history has been unveiled in Paris. Located in public gardens near Bastille Plaza, the striking monument is a massive steel star created by French visual artist and queer rights activist Jean-Luc Verna. Speaking at the unveiling on Saturday, Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo said the sculpture serves as both a remembrance and a warning. Hidalgo declared, quote, "Historical recognition means saying this happened and we don't want it to happen again," end quote. The sculpture, shaped like a star wand lying flat on the ground, has one black side that casts a long shadow during the day, Verna said. Quote, "At certain times of the day, it casts a long shadow on the ground, evoking the dangers looming over sadly," end quote. The other side of the star, silvery, reflects the sky. Historians estimate that between 5,000 and 15,000 people across Europe were deported by the Nazis for being gay. It wasn't until 2005 that French President Jacques Chirac formally acknowledged these crimes, saying LGBTQ individuals were, quote, "hunted down, arrested, and deported," end quote. Jean-Luc Roméro, Paris's deputy mayor and longtime queer advocate, noted that the memorial arrives at a difficult time. He pointed to recent U.S. policies under President Donald Trump that have stripped transgender people of rights and protections, from banning gender-affirming care for youth to ousting transgender troops. In Europe, too, LGBTQ freedoms are under threat. Hungary's parliament recently passed a constitutional amendment allowing the government to ban queer public events, a move critics warn signals growing authoritarianism. The Paris Memorial stands as both a tribute and a reminder. The fight for dignity, memory, and equality is far from over. We will all remember. We will all never forget.
Wow.
Amen.
This story just reminds me that we've existed throughout time, centuries, civilizations, since the Bible, and it's a constant reminder that, it legitimizes us, of what we are and who we are. And, it's even the meaning behind the memorial and the shadow that it casts and the silvery side of the sky. Like, I love that correlation and the meaning behind it.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely wonderful that they did this. And, the reality is, because we are part of nature, we LGBTQ people continue to be born. So, we stand on the shoulders of all the LGBTQ people around the world that were killed and persecuted, but we continue to be born. So can we really be erased? Because we're a part of nature. It's, a lot of these folks act like, this is like a recent anomaly or something. Like we continue, and so that gives me hope and faith.
Right.
Like that yes, we will live on one way or the other.
Forever. Alexander the Great was gay.
Yeah.
Now you know what made him great. He was. We've always been around though, and what's important to me is while they're trying to remove our history, while they're trying to remove our symbols, while they're trying to silence our voices, while they're denying care. I hate denying medical care to trans kids that they need to experience their own wholeness, which is what healing is. They are denying healing to people that, but what it does, it reminds us of how powerful we are. It reminds us of because you're not scared of something that's not powerful.
Resilient.
And you don't try to get rid of something that isn't powerful.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's scary. And yes, we feel like, we still have to fight with it. But just remember that they'll never get rid of us.
No.
And the reason they're intimidated is because we are a threat to their privilege or to their monopoly or to their presumed hegemony. So we are a threat to that. We're not being mean to anybody. We don't want anybody, but we are we are a threat to their ill intent. And so we are powerful. And if we remember that, we can always tap into that power. That's how we survive.
My father was Hindu. My mother's Christian, but my father was Hindu. Hinduism is over 5,000 years old. There are Hindu statues of transgender people.
Sure, yes. Yes. Like, as a Latina lesbian, this touches my soul. The pain, the resilience, the erasure of LGBTQ folks, from history. It reminds me of like what we're going through now, what the trans folks are going through now, and the dual sense of the actual sculpture is so incredible, right? Having a shadow part, having a light part, as a queer woman, I'm constantly living between the shadow and the light, so it's just so meaningful that, so big shout out going to Jean-Luc Varney, what was his name? Jean-Luc Varney, whatever his name was. I mean, amazing, incredible, to put this together in such a light and have it represent, such darkness, but also represent light at the same time and say, like, we're never going to have this happen again, right? We spoke about this in a past segment, right? Like, we saw what happened, right? Are we going to allow this to happen? This is right there, that structure showing us, please don't let this happen again. Look what we're going through right now.
Yes.
Speak up, stand up, show up.
And just like in Hinduism, is choosing light.
Yes.
And that's a huge part of the religion. Not that it has any correlation between the statue, but it's just culture and religion and just civilizations over time.
Yeah. And it speaks to the fact that we have been here.
Yeah.
We have been here and we continue to be here. So
as somebody who has been to France many, many times, the French get hated on. They're so surly, how they respond. It's a joke for every American that goes to France for the first time goes, oh, I know what the French are like. And it's a sarcastic response to their surliness. But my God, you've got to love the French. Because the French stand up and protect. And that's what this represents. One of the things I want to clarify in this story that I'm not sure is as clear as the story in the quote notes. A lot of young LGBT do not understand the pink triangle. And the pink triangle is a reflection of Nazism in 1939.
Yes.
And what happened was the Nazis put pink triangles on the homosexuals to identify them, just like the stars for the Star of David for Jews. When this quote says 5 to 15,000 estimated, and they're talking about out of France, not all over Europe, because the number was even greater. When they're talking about deported out of France, where are they deporting?
To ovens.
Deporting them to ovens in Poland mostly. So they're forcibly removing them from Paris and other places in France to Poland, and you're going to Auschwitz, and you're literally under medical experimentation, or you're being executed in gas chambers. That's what this exhibit is standing up for, of saying, this is what this monument is for. And while, of course, the Holocaust for Jews is much, much better known, the LGBT community was the next big community that faced Holocaust by Nazi Germany in 1939. When I hear this quote that Cal just said from the mayor of Paris, we don't want this to happen again. What she's referring to is a Holocaust. We don't want gay people, LGBT people, trans people to face this again. So many of my friends in Europe go, what's going on in America? And they're making connections to Germany in 1939. That's what this monument means to me. We should be all waking up.
I spoke to two people just today in South Africa, in Cape Town, and they were comparing us today to the early days of apartheid.
Wow.
Like, people see it.
Yeah.
they see it.
Wow.
And we pretend like we don't. And we saw it with the Confederate statues. We were, in the 1950s, we didn't raise heroes to liberators, statues to liberators. They raised statues to former oppressors. Those things didn't show up in the 19th century. They showed up during the civil rights movement to intimidate and silence it. And so now when we're taking them down, because they should have never been up, they're like, oh, you're erasing our history. No, you don't raise a statue to an enslaver
Yeah.
from the 1800s in
Colonizer, yeah.
1950
Yes.
to promote racism or whatever. So yes, that did have to go. But then that wasn't enough. We should have then also there should be Harvey Milk statues. You know what I mean? Like the
Yes.
heroes who fought for us
That's so
need to
true.
be up there as well. And that's what France has done.
My doctor is German. I don't have her anymore, but she is German. And we had this discussion, and she says, Raji, when you go to Germany, you do not see statues of Hitler.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a part of our history,
against the law.
but it's against the law. But we don't. That's not a part of our history. We want
you
to
celebrate.
Yeah,
to
that's something you
celebrate and
celebrate, yeah.
raise up. And she was comparing that to the statues here.
Both of your notes. This story comes right off the page for me in Cal's voice again of the mayor of Paris going, "We're doing this memorial monument because we don't ever want this to happen."
Period.
Yeah.
Period. And that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.